Oscar Bevis for the Stomping Ground, powered by Wow Hydrate and available on the zone. What's happening, Frank?
All good, mate. All good in the office.
A bit less
How are you?
glamorous than Eddie then, who's down under in the sun, yeah?
Yeah, it was a long old journey. I thought I'd come back home.
Mate, it makes sense after Riyadh and back as well. I will say, a clip from our interview the other day went down well on Instagram.
Which one?
The one that had you in the comments unexpectedly.
What? Oh, that one. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that was just, I'll get in trouble for saying I get in trouble for saying things I believe. People are unhappy on social media about it.
I will say, I am asking you these questions in all fairness. If people just take that little clip, it's not like I've been told to put the camera on and you've gone, right, Oscar, we're going to put the camera on. I'm going to do this. I am asking you these
Thank
questions.
you. Thanks for confirming. Also, when it's cut into a minute, it looks like I've just gone on a rant about it and you've just taken the highlights of it. So, and you haven't put anything I said that was nice in there.
Did you say anything nice? That's the problem.
So I always say nice things.
Shout out to our social media editor, just clipping the best bit of that clip. Joel's really exciting. The trailer for the Matchroom Netflix documentary, by the way. That painting of Barry, that is unbelievable.
He looks good in it, to be fair. It is a bit unsettling when you walk up those stairs and see that just looking down on you. I've never understood, like Eddie said, I've never understood the no shirt thing. Shirt. Maybe we can add a shirt retrospectively.
Yeah, I don't know why we need a topless Barry Hearn at the top of those stairs.
No.
But I will say, are you excited or not nervous, but like perhaps a bit apprehensive at the prospect of the world seeing how it works behind closed doors at Matchroom?
No, I'm excited. It was something I pushed quite hard for, worked for a long time with Box to Box and then Netflix to get it over the line. Um, I think it's like I watch a lot of the programming they create prior to us doing this, whether that be Drive to Survive, whether that be on other platforms, Amazon with the football, I watched the Tottenham one before, I've watched the Sunderland stuff. And football's not really my interest, but actually watching those programs are interesting. So I think for us in it, it's very difficult to understand what's fun and exciting when you do it every day. But then when you watch those programs, I'm interested in that. So other people, and look at the numbers behind Drive to Survive, for example, people are interested in that side of a sport as well, and business in general. So I think it's going to be insightful. I think it's going to be enjoyable. Look, we're a very serious business, we're a huge business, but at the same time we have a good laugh. So we've got a good balance of all of that within it.
Yeah, I was going to say the Matchroom lot are a good laugh, but I want to know if there was anyone that was perhaps playing up to the cameras a little bit, waiting for their Hollywood moment.
Yeah, most of them, to be fair. Most people playing up, just trying to get their 1 minute of fame.
Yeah.
But it covers our whole business as well. So not just boxing, but snooker, darts, pool, everything we do. So it's interesting from all those angles as well to see how different the worlds are that we're all involved in.
Yeah, everyone trying to get their own little spin-off. Have you got a specific bit you're looking forward to? I guess obviously you've seen all the episodes, unlike us. Have you got a specific bit that you're like, I really can't wait for people to see this?
Do you know what? I've watched it over a period of time. I can't really, I sort of, it's like our business. You do something and then you move on to the next thing. My memory is absolutely terrible. I've got to be honest. But there's a lot of interesting stuff in there. You've obviously got, whether it was Eubank-Benn, which was a huge storyline throughout the show, whether it was the Katie Taylor moments in the Serrano fight, AJ Dubois, the 5v5, and then across the other sports, the World Darts Championship, the World Snooker in Riyadh. There's so much stuff in there that goes on. Six 45-minute episodes, lots of interesting bits. But I'm not going to give anything away because I don't want to get in trouble either.
I can't believe it's only six 45-minute episodes. I felt like that Netflix filming was ages. So they must have cropped it down into
Well,
like some real best bits.
it was. I mean, I think I did 14 hours of interviews. 14 hours, and I reckon they used about a minute of it.
Oh,
So they must have filmed thousands. This is what I actually think is quite amazing now, having seen that side of it. How they how they managed to put these programs together, where amongst all of the content that they've captured over 9, 10, 11 months, and then manage to condense it, like you say, within that period is quite unbelievable. And what a job they do. I think there was 35 people working on it from box to box and Netflix. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward. I think I haven't really watched it as chilled, like I've watched it throughout, but bits have changed. I don't think I've even seen the final cuts of things. So I'm looking forward to sitting there. I'm sure I'll be as surprised as everyone else when I get to see a few bits added in.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it coming out, and I'll definitely be binge watching it straight away. Right, about last Saturday, how do you reflect on 121, 122 seconds of what we saw between Moses and Dillian?
Yeah, look, Moses is special. For 20 years old, what he's doing is quite unbelievable. You know, he's doing everything that's asked of him. Moses can do no more. He's getting in there and he's dispatching of people. Um, Probably wasn't the best Dillian White, being
That's
open.
tough to watch for you.
Sorry?
That's tough to watch for you when you say it wasn't the best Dillian White.
Look, he's always been a fighter. He's been in tough fights throughout his career. We know that. Look at the Derek Chisora fights. Look at the AJ and you think the AJ fight was what, 10 years ago? Something like that. Um, but he's a warrior, isn't he? But I don't think it was the best of Dillian White. But Italma's job is to get in there and knock people out, and he's doing that without question. So you can't question anything in his career because he's delivering. I think the toughest thing with heavyweight boxing is that speed of pushing people through. Because look, we all look back to, like, who's another example? Daniel Dubois back in the day when he was the second, and look at what he's gone on to do in the latter part. But when he fought Joe Joyce, and the losses he had, and then boxing's a fickle sport, and it's quite easy to be written off in boxing, you know, and not comparing their ability. Look at Edgar Berlanga when he was knocking people out in the first round in every fight, and then he went the distance a few times. Everyone's like, I'm not sure about this guy. That's the sport we're in. So you're only as good as your last performance. I hope Moses continues on this path and trajectory because it's great for boxing. And excited to see what's next for him. It's always difficult because once you step up in the names, you then have to step up in the class quite quickly. And he's going to step up in tougher fights without much ring experience because he's knocking people out. It's not his fault. It's just the reality of it.
Did you hear any rumours or murmurs of an injury to Dillian during the week?
No, I did not myself. No, I saw some things afterwards, but not myself. No.
Just on Usyk, well, kind of on Usyk, on his next fight, how would you work it considering he's like if he was in charge of Moses, he's a young fighter, and I know he wants to fight Usyk, but you've also got time on your side. But Usyk is your money fight, and you don't want to lose the money fight because Usyk might only be in the sport for 12 to 18 months. How do you work that? Because Usyk's where you're getting the big bucks, but you go and fight Hrgovic and Miller, Usyk might have his feet up somewhere retired. So is it like
Mm.
a bit of a 50-50 type of what you do?
Yeah, look, I think the reality is all of these great heavyweights can beat each other. You've got 17, 18, 19 stone men, punching. You're all vulnerable, apart from what we've seen Usyk do in the current day. But that's the reality of the sport we're in. Do I think it is too soon for an Usyk fight for Moses Salma? But could he beat him? Yeah, I mean, I think they could all beat each other on their best day and catch each other with a shot. How many surprise knockout, losses have we seen in heavyweight boxing? So anything can happen, but it's probably too soon in terms of taking the risk, I would think. If it, if it was our job.
Yeah. I know the Ring Magazine rankings now have a Talma 10th, I think AJ 5th, and Fury, a retired Fury, 1st. Your thoughts on that?
Is he first?
Bison is, yeah.
Look, I think with him being retired, then probably shouldn't be in there. Right? But again, maybe he's not retired. Maybe he's going to come back. Um, I think Tyson Fury will come back at some point. I think there's great fights to be made between them all. It's the heavyweight division is in an interesting time. There's great fights across the board. There's lots of talk about what does Joseph Parker do next. There's the mandatory there. Lots of opportunities out there. But yeah, the Ring magazine are much smarter than me when it comes to ranking fighters.
I know Tyson thinks that Italma would walk through anyone. Usyk, AJ. That seems to be Tyson's thinking. So
Yeah, I mean, he's a big fan of Moses. I think that would be a great fight. Tyson against Moses. They got the same promoter. Um, but we all want to see AJ against Tyson, ultimately. That's a huge fight. But yeah, Moses, like I said, they can beat each other. Like these top heavyweights, when you're getting punched, with that much ferocity, like nothing can surprise you, can it? Is Usyk a lot further, a lot more developed and a lot further down the line in his career than Moses Selma? Yes. But we're talking about someone landing a shot on someone and ending a fight. And so far he's done that on the majority of his fights as he stepped up.
I like that. If Fury's saying that about Moses and everyone else, then got the same promoter. Why didn't you have a ding dong? Daniel Dubois split with Don Charles. Really interesting link up with Tony. But just first on the Don Charles split, are you a bit surprised? Because his only two losses have been to Usyk, who is, of course, one of the greatest, not just of our generation, of all time. Um, and he had them brilliant wins where it looked like Don kind of dragged him through against Hrgović Miller in some tough moments. When you saw that, was you a bit surprised?
No, look, I think you never know what's going on in the background with relationships on either side. There may be reasons from either side why that decision was made, and rightly so. But a lot of the times, the reality never comes out, does it? It's just you see this news and you say they've split, and people go, "Oh, that's a joke." He's only lost against Usyk. Why would he split from him? But you don't know the reality or the relationship or the discussions that have taken place in truth. I think fighters who chase that, I think trainers, it's more about relationship for me with trainers and having someone that's going to push you to the limits and the edge and push you mentally in a fight. There's not tons of great boxing trainers out there, in truth, who are going to heavily develop a fighter. From trainers I've seen, there are trainers that can do that, but there's not tons, right? And I think a lot of trainers take on too many fighters, lose the personal sort of effect and the ability to actually improve a fighter. Just my view. I'm not a trainer, so I'm not sitting here, but from seeing trainers with multiple fighters, like someone goes on a hot streak, loads of people go and join them. And it's very difficult to then give that personal, dedicated, time to each individual fighter to actually improve them and focus on them. So for me, I think a lot of the time it's about that relationship and someone who can really pull it out of you at the time you need them. And it might be that the fire's got like that's gone between them, and there's not that relationship there anymore. And if that's the case, then rightly so, move. If it's the case of I've lost two fights and he's not good enough because of that, then yeah, probably not the right mentality to have. But if that's where your head's at, then you probably shouldn't be with them anyway. So I think we're all guilty of making calls without understanding what the situation is in the background.
Yeah, I mean, do you think it must be hard for a trainer when there's such like heavy family involvement, and specifically here we know Daniel's father's like kind of the driving force behind him, supposedly the driving force behind, I guess what we'll just call Partygate as well for now. Do you think it might be difficult when there's such heavy involvement? Because a lot of like we know about Daniel's father Stan, but it seemed to kind of unravel a lot more all of this after the Usyk defeat. So do you think it's perhaps the relationship there maybe?
Yeah, look, some relationships in between fathers and sons can be good and beneficial for a fighter's career. Others can be detrimental. I've seen all that stuff about the party stuff, but then he did that apparently before the Joshua fight. So it's like, well, which one is it? Is it good or is it bad? Like he just lost against a great fighter in Usyk. That's the reality. Like, and everyone can blame stuff and say, oh, this is a trainer. It was I had a party or my dad did it. Like the reality is sometimes you just get beaten by the better person. So stop looking for excuses or reasons why you lost. Just go, I got beaten by the better man or woman on the night. That's the truth. And now we get back in and we go from there.
Yeah. On the link up with Tony Sims, obviously elite trainer, elite fighter. You'd think there's going to be some really good things in the works. How do you think it'll be for Daniel when there's like six or seven big characters in that gym as well. All right, fine, not characters are at the level that he is. Obviously, Connor's a world level elite fighter, but more in terms of like you've got 6 or 7 kind of bouncy prospects as well, and it's like I said, there's a lot of people in that gym. Um, it's going to be it's quite a bubbly dynamic, really, considering
Be what he
Daniel's always
needs.
been a bit of himself to himself kind of guy.
Might be what he needs. Like you never know. Might be something that brings it out, brings something out of him now. Might need more people around him. Might, like, it might add to him as an individual. Like he might learn stuff there. He might enjoy being around these people. There's only one way to find out. Um, he's not the most outspoken character, as we know. You know, he's quite quiet. He's quite reserved. Although now he tries to, be a bit more out there. But yeah, it might be good for him, especially to have young prospects, like young fighters who are hungry. Like you think Dubois made a lot of money now, like, in the sport. I'm not saying that that's all he's focused on, but money is a big driving force, and money changes people's life, obviously. So it changes the way they train, it changes the way they do things in the most part in any walk of life, but boxing, it does change in. So he may need that, and it may be helpful to have those young fighters around him who push him.
Yeah, I quite like it. Tony Sims, Sam Jones as well, and I quite like the kind of bubble that might create. Talking of Sam Jones, actually, I want to move on to Jack Catchell. I don't know if you would have seen any of the interviews that we done with Jack and Harlem. There's still like I feel like the dislike has grown after the fight. Like it's kind of, it was a bit hairy, maybe not too much. I feel like after the fight, they kind of just fully have a real dislike for each other.
I haven't seen too many of them, to be honest. Um,
I mean,
I
Jack
mean,
said
look,
that Eubanks are delusional. Harlem said that Jack's making everyone bored by his boring interviews. But I can sense like a real dislike between the pair now.
yeah, look, it didn't end in the best way, the fight, did it? I don't think too much talking is going to help sell a rematch because it wasn't the most interesting fight. That's the reality. Like sometimes you just have to accept the reality of it. It wasn't the best fight. Styles didn't gel, and you have to move on. They can still dislike each other. We'll let them have their back and forth.
Yeah. Um, on Vidal Riley, I know when his free agent post, his quote was, "I think things were good. Now we strive for greatness." Be honest, when do you make your approach now that he's a free agent?
No, look, I got asked this earlier. We haven't had any discussion. We're very close with 258, obviously, who manage Vidal. We've had a long relationship with them, with AJ, obviously. He's a great fighter and he's got a big commercial appeal, of course, and he's doing great things. So, as always, if there's good fighters out there and opportunities, but it has to work for everyone, and it has to be opportunities that make sense and long-term goals and visions that align. So we'll see. We'll see what happens, but no conversations yet.
Yeah, because I know you obviously just don't sign anyone, but I guess potential and value would be two of the biggest things. Don't tell me if I'm wrong, but is it fair to say that anyone with a British title at his age, there's no reason that there won't be like severe interest from everyone, by the way?
Yeah, there's going to be interest, of course. And he's got a big following. He's built a huge following for himself. And I think, when he first came into the sport, he was probably perceived more from a social media aspect than
Oh, he's a trainer, wasn't he? That's what people called him.
yeah. So it's like, but he's proven himself to everyone now. Not saying he needed to do that, but that's the reality of people's perception on the early days. I think he's in a great place, as you say, British champion and big fights to be made for him. So yeah, of course, everyone will be interested in the opportunity to work with him.
Yeah. I know we spoke on, what was it, Thursday, but I want to talk about an interview that I done perhaps on the Tuesday with Napa. He said he never doubted that Ben would be involved in Eubank-Benn too. Said like Ben was his guy and whatnot. Did you ever think there would be a time where Ben Shalom would not be involved in the rematch?
Mm, who knows?
No, but was
You
there a
never
point where you thought that like it would be, Eubank and his management team, Matchroom, Ring Magazine, Riyadh Season Set, and Ben Shalom would not be involved in number two?
really care, to be honest. Do you know what I mean? Like that, really don't really think about it. Like, never really comes into my mind. It's he's doing his thing, whatever. If that's who they choose to work with, then cool. but I don't really lose much sleep about it. I don't do too much thinking about it. Um, it's been very quiet on their front around it all.
Surprised you.
But yeah, because they haven't got much to shout about. So you think they'd shout about something?
Like, I know when Charlie spoke to Eddie earlier, he said like, if this was me with a new opportunity, I'd be handing out flyers, like doing big launch events, dinners, and there hasn't really been.
I don't know. I get stick like in those interviews for answering questions in a negative manner.
That's why I stuck it towards the end of this one.
No, it doesn't make much sense. But unless there's things in the background that are still to be done, and that's why it's been quiet. Like they're supposed to have a show on September 27th between I think Fraser Clark and TKV. That is 5 weeks or 4 weeks away this Saturday, and it's or 5 weeks away. It's not been announced. So, and they got 4 shows a year, and that's one of them. So I don't know. I don't know. It is very strange, but I focus my attention on what we're doing rather than other people. I would always answer questions with opinions, but I don't lose too much sleep about it.
Yeah, well, talking about what you're doing, the keen-eyed amongst us media, because we obviously need to know where you and Eddie are, etc., would have noticed that on the Sunderland show, that's when Sugar Nunes is fighting, Boots is the same night as Dave. How do you, is that difficult for you? Because you've got like pound for pound star Boots, Dave Allen starting a really interesting journey. You kind of have to split ways with where you guys are. How do you work that out, kind of?
Yeah, it's just dependent on each show. So like Belfast, I'll be in Belfast until Friday. Then I fly to Japan on Saturday for Inoue, Akhmadaliev, see Akhmadaliev topple Inoue out in Japan. September 6th is probably Eddie will be in Mexico. I'll be in Sunderland. October 11th, I think Eddie will be with Boots. I'll be in Sheffield for the Dave Allen show. So it's just part and parcel of it. And over time, that's obviously it's been the way we've worked over time, and that's why I do a bit more media now than I probably ever wanted to, because of that side of it. Just got to be out there and doing things. It's easy. It's part and parcel of becoming a big business, a global business, with multiple shows on multiple nights, all around the world. That's what we have to deal with. But it's a good problem to have.
Yeah. Absolutely. In terms of the media for you, are you enjoying media now though? Because I know there was a point where you used to say like, and even though I said to you the other day, you've been a bit evasive, Frank, maybe just because of the stomping ground, you don't want to be on it. But are you starting to like enjoy people propping up cameras and like saying, let's talk about, I don't know, enemies, rivals, fights, whatever.
Doesn't I can take it or leave it. But again, I've said before, I get compared to Eddie as an individual. We're very different, but I like paperwork, contracts, finances, shows, production. He likes this. Like, but I'll do this, but I'm not him, and I'm never going to be him. I can stand and talk to you and answer any question you want and not shy away from any question. But it was never my focus. But I will do it. I do it quite often, but enjoy it is what it is. Get on with it. You know, it's part of the job, isn't it? You have to do it. But I wouldn't say I'm running up and down, signing up to do interviews left, right, and centre because it's not really the focus of my job. And I have a lot to do as well. I have a lot going on in the background that I have to focus on, so I can't spend too much time doing these things because then it takes me away from my actual job.
This isn't part of your actual job for you, man.
Well,
To be
it is
fair,
my actual, but I have a lot there's a lot going on. So this is Eddie's actual job is day in, day out, selling, selling, selling. Whereas mine is doing what I need to do in the background, but also doing a bit of this. And also, like I say, I'm not him. So I'm never going to be him. People are never going to go, wow, that guy's unbelievable because I get compared to him. I don't get compared to the shit people, everyone else in boxing who can't talk as well. If you compare me to 99.9% of people in boxing, you go, hey, he speaks well. But if you compare me to him, you go, he's shit at this.
well, you just said you were going to say that I'm compared to everyone else who is shit, right? And then you kind of went, oh, I mean, compared to him who's good. Who's the second best talker in boxing then, promotionally, if Eddie's number one?
Second best. I think in terms of there's different things, right? There's like I think Oscar De La Hoya is entertaining,
He is 100%. 100%.
like because he's a bit lawless with what he does. I wouldn't say he's the this isn't saying this about, but I wouldn't say he's the second best promoter. When you're talking about talkers,
Really, he's wild. Like he's
yeah,
you never know what he's going to do.
no, because he's not corporate, you know. So like in terms of talkers, he does make me laugh the most.
To be fair, you talk about not what like signing up to do media, but after a new Akhmadaliev, if Akhmadaliev wins, you are going to have to jump on Zoom, Frank.
Like I'll be doing somewhere. I think I don't know where it is. My Uzbek jacket. I'm going to be wearing that
Get
in
it?
the ring.
If it's in the vicinity of a couple of meters, put it on, please.
No, it's not. It's not in here. It must be hung up somewhere. I think it's outside. But I'm going to be taking that to Japan. I'm going to be at the show in that, and I'm going to try and do. If he beats him, I'll even try a backflip off the ropes probably.
Christ, Frank Smith exclusive with a broken neck. Finally, actually, I know I keep saying finally on Akhmadaliev. That is obviously a big night for you because I remember interviewing him in like 2020 and it was focused about a new way. We're 5 years on. So it has all kind of been, although he's won world titles and have looked good, it's kind of all been leading to this.
100%. Look, he had that loss against Tapales, which was a close fight and a fight we felt he deserved to win, and would have then been mandatory or was mandatory and in the position to fight in Inoue. But it's grown into an even bigger fight. And fair play to Inoue, he's took the fight after a lot of call outs, a lot of delays. But we're here. It's just a month away now. And if he can beat him, it is huge. You know, and Inoue has shown vulnerabilities. He showed it in his previous fight. He's been put down. You know, and Akhmadaliev is very, very good. And I think he's the kind of fighter that needs those tests to show how good he is. Look, it's going to be a hard ask. Of course it is. But he has the ability to go in there and beat him, and we believe he truly can.
That is a serious weekend of boxing. Frank, you said you got till 1 o'clock. It is bang on 1 o'clock, so I'm going to let you go and do your actual real job. Thank you very much, mate, and I will see you in Sunderland.
See you there, mate. Good to see you.